Hi, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle. Been known by a few names. So, years ago, after moving into my house in San Antonio, back in 2002 is when I moved in with my son, my daughter, and I, as well as my now dead ex-husband, but nonetheless, that's the year I bought the house. And so in 2003, I was doing a meditation ritual. I think it was 2003. And there was a song that had come out by Hoobastank, The Reason, I think is what it was called. And so it was ideal because at that time I was really going over certain aspects in reference to the after effects of 9/11. There were quite a few things, and at that time I had only discussed certain aspects of my nightmare that later turned into a dream with a very few amount of people. A lot of people that I had known up until that point knew that I had fought to be emancipated to join the United States of America's Armed Forces Army branch. They knew that. And they knew about my head injury on Palm Sunday during basic training, the after effects, so on and so forth, in comparison to other things. And I was 17 at the time that I had gotten into the Army. That's why I had to fight to be emancipated. And so there had been essentially, it was a nightmare at the time, and it later turned to a dream back when I was a child growing up. And there was a point where I had to make a decision as a child to look at the armed forces. I hadn't figured out which branch yet, but I had made the decision from a realization that the only way I would be able to do anything to assist and possibly be able to change the aspects I saw in the nightmare had been to join the United States of America's Armed Forces. And while that song had a lot to do with my son and my daughter and wanting the best for them and that sort of stuff, again, not to say that I'm the cause of all sorts of stuff, obviously, just more along, and I'm not the one who did what was needing to be done on that day and during that time, especially during the first few initial months and then thereafter. I only made the recommendations that I made. That was it. And then whatever was chosen to be done was chosen to be done. That's it. I'm not going to take credit for what all those guys did, because obviously I can't. I wouldn't. That's not the type of person I am. And so I had made the decision I had to join, and then later, as the nightmare slowly started going into a dream, then there was the 93 attack, and that solidified what I already knew that I had to do as far as joining the armed forces. It was just formalizing which branch I would go into and how would be the best way to do so. Later, in just a couple of years from that point, would be when I would find out about MAST, Marine and Science Technology School, which had or has a naval academy associated with it, and thought that that would be a way to assist, and then I didn't get into Mass. And then later, when I graduated early, I had basically had to fight to get myself emancipated because I was 17 when I wanted to join, or could officially join, I should say. And so after fighting to be emancipated and officially being emancipated so that way I could join, I did. And then I had my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. And I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, and I was in a coma for a while, and I woke up at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas, and just the constant headaches and migraines. Didn't know that's what they were called at the time. It was later explained to me that's what they're called. And then the memory deficits and cognitive disorders, and having gone from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math, that was later explained. And by the time that song, The Reason, by Hoobastank had come out, well, I hadn't been told that aspect in regards to the memory deficits or the cognitive disorders yet. It had just been the words for the headaches and migraines, and then just the words for having gone from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math. It hadn't been explained that the memory deficit and cognitive disorders were the associated issues with that until a couple years later after that particular point in time. And so, where some people could probably just review such as not that big of a deal in certain ways, you know, I take a lot of things seriously. So while I was extremely upset that I was not able to actually complete basic training and do what I had thought was necessary at the time, ironically, being at San Antonio and the apartment complex I was in, I was able to go to an individual that would be able to relay the messages as far as different suggestions from what I remembered as far as what occurred in the 1990s, specifically the attack on the World Trade Center in 1993. And I mean, I didn't really think it was that big of a deal, not because it wasn't important, just more along the lines of I wasn't the one who did all that. All those different guys in the various military, law enforcement, fire department, and EMS branches, those guys were the ones who did that, not me. I just made a suggestion. Or a few. Nonetheless, I didn't really look at it as that big of a deal at the time because it was what was needed. It was what was necessary. And despite certain other aspects that have occurred over those years after, you know, I kind of figured that there was, pun intended with the name of the song, The Reason. There was a reason why I had to be where I was. And, you know, I wasn't a bad person before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, despite what certain individuals might want to think. And, you know, just like I can't tell a lie now, I couldn't tell a lie back then. More so because of the fact that Well, I got in trouble for what my biological sister did, and the few times that I had attempted to lie, which was so bad, I failed miserably, and then I got beaten worse. So I just figured it was less of a beating if I told the truth, because I can't tell a lie at all. And then after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, I definitely cannot tell a lie. And so, mainly because it's difficult enough as it is to remember stuff. So trying to remember all the other aspects of who was told what, when, all that, that's too much to add to just the everyday stuff. And so, heard the song on the radio and kind of figured, well, I could explain some of that as to why that was the particular song that was chosen to sing to as far as that particular meditation. And I've done what I can as best as I can, and I know I'm far from perfect. I do everything I can as best as I can, though, and I mess up a lot. A lot of times it has to do with technology and math. Other than that, I still do the best that I can either way. And so, may not be a overtly exciting official YouTube channel video of mine, but it gives that explanation if that's needed or wanted, I guess. But anyway, I'm on my way to go swimming. Hopefully that'll help certain aspects, because my headaches and migraines are just today. I mean, it's better than they were yesterday, relatively speaking. I mean, still is what it is. So, do the best that I can. So, yeah. But, irony. That regard. Try the best that I can for what it's worth. I do have to admit there are times where I wonder if even the best that I've attempted to do is just even good enough. If it ever had been. That's a personal thing. Anyway, you guys have a good one. And comment, like, share, and subscribe to my official YouTube channel.